Solve quadratic equations using the quadratic formula. There are numerous ways to solve quadratic equations, including factoring with the zero product property, the square root method, and completing the square followed by the square root method. There is one more method for solving quadratic equations. It's called the quadratic formula. Given the standard form of the quadratic equation, ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, provided that a does not equal 0, the real solution or solutions, if they exist, are given by this formula, the quadratic formula. This formula is a fraction that can be split two ways. So we have x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. But we can rewrite this like this. Negative b over 2a plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. So one solution would be this plus that here, or this minus this here. So here are our two solutions. Let's consider the graph of the quadratic function given by f of x equals ax squared plus bx plus c. In the figure, there are two x-intercepts shown, one at each of the real solutions to the equation ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So here's our axis of symmetry, and that's at that x-coordinate here is negative b over 2a. This solution here is going to be negative b over 2a plus this amount, which is the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. That's the same distance as this distance from the axis of symmetry to the other solution. So that's this value, negative b over 2a, minus this distance, the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. So here we have one solution, which is the plus sign, and over here we have the other solution, which is the negative sign. Exercise 1. Solve using the quadratic formula and simplify. Here's our equation. A is 1 because there's nothing written there, which means it's 1. B is negative 2, and c is negative 4. So given these coefficients, we can fill in everything here. So we have negative b, so that's positive 2, plus or minus the square root of negative 2 squared minus 4 times a, which is 1, times c, which is negative 4, giving us the square root of 20 here, and then over 2a, and a is 1, therefore divided by 2. Then we can simplify the square root of 20 to be 2 times the square root of 5, since the square root of 20 is the square root of 4 times 5, so the square root of 4 is 2, and we still have the square root of 5 left over. And so there's our two solutions. We can divide each term here by 2, and we get 1 plus the square root of 5, or 1 minus the square root of 5. Exercise 2. Solve using the quadratic formula and simplify. Alright, for this equation, we have an a value of 3, b is also 3, and c is negative 5. So in this step, we plug in all of our values, we simplify, and we get that x equals negative 3 plus or minus the square root of 69 over 6. So that gives us two possible solutions, the plus sign or the negative sign. And when you use a calculator, we get x equals 0.884 or x equals negative 1.884. If you want to check your answers after using the quadratic formula, you can just plug your solutions into the original equation. So since this was one of our solutions, we can just plug this whole thing in for x here and there. So we'd plug it in there and then do all of the math, simplify, see if you get 0 as your answer. And in the same way, we can check out the other answer. So that was the answer with the plus sign. Here's the answer with the negative sign. So just plug that in as well and see if you get 0.